What do you mean? So Paddy, I asked two trainers that know you well and a jockey what you were like. The jockey said to me that you're highly strung and you can fly off the wall.
Yeah.
One of the trainers said, you're a good lad who worked really hard. And the other trainer said, you're just manic. Do you recognise all those three characters in yourself?
I definitely recognise the jockey bit, the work hard bit, yeah. The manic bit, I'm not sure about that bit.
Because this is the thing I think that a load of people like Paddy Brennan, like listening to this conversation, because you've got that eye. If you were a racehorse, I would be just a little bit weary of getting on top and galloping with you, I think, because there's just a sparkle in there. It feels like a lot has gone on, maybe in your life, behind the scenes. Is that right?
Yeah, look, I think in your race in life over a period of time, well, I've been a jockey now for 24 years. It's a long time, and there's been many ups and there's been many downs, but I think the kind of life you have to live, there's going to be lots of stories.
So when you were the Paddy Brennan, the champion conditional jockey at Philip Hobbs, what kind of Paddy Brennan were you then?
Yeah, I just wanted it at that stage of my career. I wanted it so bad. I was definitely used to fly off the handle a lot more then. I couldn't have continued on like that, the way I behaved at that part of my career. But it's when you want something so bad, you behave maybe out of order sometimes to get it, and it's definitely not always the right way.
Can you give us an example of what that might include?
Look, saddles that go flying. You speak to people like you couldn't speak to them now. And some of that you wouldn't be very proud of, but that's just the way it was at the time.
You mixed it with Jim Bolger, like so many people at one stage, didn't you? I mean, Jim Bolger's not going to accept Manic Paddy, is he?
Well, he soon straightened out Manic Paddy. I think he was the first person I think I was scared of. There's sounds in life you'll never forget, and Jim Bolger walking from his house down to the yard was a sound of his shoes I could remember like it was yesterday. You knew he was coming, and you got in shape, or whatever you were doing, you started doing more. He just had that powerful. When he arrived, I've never seen so many people run. Honestly, everyone was scared of him, not just me.
How do you get from there then to here?
Yeah, well, obviously in gyms I got quite heavy and I was struggling my weight, and Tony Mackay came to visit the yard a couple of times and sort of just got to speak to him about where it might be best to go in England. But obviously when I came to England first, I expected things to happen a lot quicker than they did, but I wasn't ready for it, and it was a lot harder to get going than I expected.
But you end up being champion conditional at Philip Hobbs. A man I thought who would be good for you. He's fairly level-headed,
yeah.
Even character.
Yeah, Philip Hobbs is what's missing or what's needed more for young jockeys, because it's just proper education of how to behave. And Philip's was the most severe, not severe, hurtful of all, because the way he'd do it, he would just say it. There was no raising the voice. But because he was I had so much respect for him, it would just, if I let him down, and the way he'd say it, he was just, if any young jockey says to me now, where do I go and jump race? And I say Philip Hobbs. Just, that's the first name that pops into my head.
It's interesting because he's the man who said you were manic, but he added in after that, which I didn't tell you at the start. He added in, but I recommended him to Nigel Twiston-Davies, and he said I wouldn't have done that because Nigel was a good friend if I didn't think he was really good.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Oh no, as I say, at Phillips I was lucky enough to be champion conditional, and that was massive thanks to him. And then obviously Graham Wiley and Howard Johnson phoned up, and I went there, and yeah, it was. I didn't leave there because there was no more rides. I left there because another job popped up. I'm not sure where I would be now if that hadn't happened.
You had a little bit of Paul Nicholls along the way as well.
He was at the start,
yeah.
The very start, yeah. And as I say, I came over there thinking I was just going to take off, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't good enough, and it just I had to slow things down a bit, and then I eventually got going.
Because with Nicholls, he's the one who said, look, he was a good lad, he worked hard. And I said, but everyone says Paddy's crazy. And he said, they're all crazy. And he didn't think you were any more mad than a jockey has to be. And we don't mean that term in a nasty way, but just it's a job that you need to be a little bit different.
Yeah, like being a jockey is different, and everyone that gets into the horse race, the horse being a jockey world, it has to be, like you say, a little bit. But it's not just jockeys. Policemen see stuff that's not always nice, and that can have a mental. It's the same for nurses and doctors. They got to deal with stuff. Maybe in jockeys, when you're getting falls and stuff all the time, you got to be a little bit mad.
Yeah, he's a lunatic. I've stayed in a couple of hotels rooms with him, and one night the ceiling was too high, so we had to get up at 1:30 in the morning and go and find another one, and then I couldn't sleep when I got in that hotel. But if he was a horse, he'd be a box walker anyway,
But the funny thing about Paddy is you don't usually hear him before you'd see him, whether it's in a race or after a race.
I guess he's a good one of kind of psyching you out of something. He's very, very entertaining in before and after a race, and obviously he's strong tactically. Yeah, he's obviously just a good chap all around.
He'll tell you himself he's agriculture and a finish and stuff, but before you go out in a race he's got a plan in his head, and he sticks to it, and it works.
Tactically very good. Always seems to be in the right place. Very good judge of a horse, good judge of pace. No, he's a fantastic jockey, really is.
Everyone wants to win badly, but I'd say Paddy sometimes wants to win more than anybody else.
He's matured so much over the years, but he's a great man to sort of judge a race. I think the speed, how a race is panning out, and again, experience.
Absolute lunatic, craziest person I've ever met in my life. You just never know what you're going to get. He sort of makes coming racing really exciting, because you can come in some days and think, oh, there's my mate Paddy. Hi, Pad, how are you? And he'll swear at you or something. But no, other times, he's the best company in the world. But he's always been good to me with advice and stuff like that. So as well as being mad, there's a good person in there as well.
Where does Caro de Bordet live, lads?
You'd hear plenty of stories, but sure, one thing is that he'll always be a legend of our game.
He's a pretty boy, isn't he?
2013, you marry Lindsay, you got 3 kids. How much do you feel that relationship has changed Paddy?
Yeah, like it just, as soon as I met Lindsay and she would walk into the room, it just took away so much pressure. Like that was maybe the time when I had to accept that I just had to slow things down a bit, because I was burning out. And Lindsay just has this great aura. Just when she's in the room, I'm a lot more at ease, relaxed, and that's a nice feeling.
She's a nurse who can have someone die at her arms. You're a jockey who can go crazy because you've lost a horse race. When you look at those two things and you bring them together, does that ease your pain, or because you're so determined to win, does even that not really ease what goes on in the Brennan head?
It just helps, but Lindsay doesn't tolerate it because of what she sees. But obviously, Matt, the feeling of getting beat just doesn't go away in hours. It can sometimes take days. It's just because you care, you've made a mistake. But yeah, like as you get older, you definitely deal with it better.
Let's move on to that then, because you've said it can take days. It can take years. You know that because Q Card, who was a great horse for you, great horse, but also gave you probably your worst moment in racing by falling when absolutely coming there like this, Paddy. You're coming there like this. You go for a big one, nothing wrong with that.
I go for no one. That's worse.
Okay, you come down, and that affects you for not days, weeks, months, but years.
Yeah, but Max, you could go back even further to Imperial Commander years. I think I got to a time in my career where I was winning so many Grade 1s, Gold Cups, and suddenly that ended. And suddenly you're coming down off the mountain, and like obviously Q Card was a big thing that came along, but as time's gone on, I've used a lot of that, not so much as an excuse, but I've recognised the issue started many years before that, But then when Q Card came along and was pushing me back into the big time with just that one horse, and then that day, that took years of, it was really hard. But I think there's so many more people struggling out there now that not many people know about, and I can recognise that because I've been there.
I understand that, and it comes back to someone dying in Lindsay's arms is clearly a lot worse than you losing a race. But for you, this is life and death, isn't it? In your head, winning is life and death, really. It is what means everything to you. And that Gold Cup, you will have felt you should have won.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know how difficult it is to win, and it may never happen again.
No. Yeah, exactly. It'd be the dream that to even get near that again, but over time, Matt, you learn to accept it, and you've got to try and figure out a way of why didn't it happen, and maybe it just wasn't meant to be. And I know I messed it up, but I'm proud that I've got on with it, and I'm getting slowly back to where I want to be.
Why do you feel you messed it up? Like you could have done 10 other things and still come down.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I always describe race riding to driving a car, and there's a gap there, and you need to be making the decision instantly sometimes, especially on a busy road. But on that instance, it was like, will I go in there or won't? I was like, I will. I shouldn't have went. It should have been just no. Don't go in that gap, and then it wouldn't have happened.
But that's my point. It might have done. Like I've seen people run down fences 20 clear, and still come down at the last when, if they hadn't run it down, they might not. You know what I mean? It's like anything. It is surely this is a game that you have to understand that anything can happen.
You do. You have to understand, but that's how it was, and yeah.
What about Corto Star beating Imperial Commander in a tight finish? How do you cope with that? Happened at Haydock.
Yeah, Ruby Walsh was just unbelievable that day. I learnt more from Ruby that day than I've ever learned from any other jockey. He basically, I remember him jumping 4 out and he started saying, "You got me, Paddy," in behind. He was getting in my head.
Talking to you?
Yeah, mind games. You got me, Paddy. Land off 3 out, you got me, Paddy. Of course, what he was doing is he was fueling Paddy. And I didn't need any fueling, so I pressed the green button too soon that day because of his brilliance and his mind games.
And do we see that reaction from you when you win the Gold Cup and you see off Corto Star and Denman, and there's clearly a release coming out of you as you cross the line? Is part of that in you?
Oh yeah, that was massive. Like, it was just, that's what you got to remember, days like that. Honestly, it's just like, brilliant.
How does a Paddy Brennan celebrate a victory like that? Do you celebrate? Because we know you take the defeats hard, but do you celebrate for 2 years, or is it taken almost for granted? Yeah,
you win a race like that, you just get drunk immediately. For anyone that drinks, you'll understand it's immediate drunk. It's like, wow, it was just unbelievable.
As in not literally, but mentally drunk.
Yeah, mentally. Yeah. No,
like being on a
I didn't need to get drunk. I do drink alcohol. I have been drunk, but I could have just drank water for a few days. It was just, it was a great feeling.
So you feel like you're God, basically, walking on water.
At that time, yeah.
Particularly when you've beaten Corto and Denman.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. You feel like God, but then that don't last, Matt.
It all started for you in many ways, as far as big horse is concerned, with a lovely chaser, Ashley Brooke, for the Bishops. He would have meant so much to them as a small operation, and you were very much part of that. Yeah,
I said, a lot of young jockeys coming through now. What do we need to do? You need to find an Ashley Brooke, which I was lucky enough to find at a time when I needed to find a good horse, and he was the real ladder I needed, and took me on to the Saturday, took me on to graded races, and it was brilliant.
Took you to Cheltenham?
Took me to Cheltenham, second in the Arkle, yeah. And then
Timmy Murphy?
Yeah, and then he went on and beat War of Attrition in Aintree, who went on to win a Gold Cup.
I'm interested to what Paddy Brennan would think about Cheltenham when you go there and ride there for the first time. I'm kind of thinking for you it would be like going to the Holy Grail. It's like sort of Indiana Jones stuff. Yeah,
Cheltenham is such a special place. It's the Olympics. It doesn't matter. Yes, we all want to win at the festival, but every meeting at Cheltenham is special. Just being there, what a unique place, and tactically it brings the best out in jockeys. It's such a unique track to ride, and I love it.
every track and every race is going to be ridden a different way depending on the opposition, obviously. But are there certain places that you like to do things that if you have the right horse, there's tracks where you like to send them or something like that?
Yeah, like every track's different, and that's all about experience. And as you get older, you have to ride so many tracks differently. You know, some tracks you can't. You've got to be very handy, positive. Ride like we do in England a lot is kicking on far too soon, but it's how you got to ride over here. But then when you get on the bigger tracks, the Exeters, the Chepstows, the Cheltenhams, is time.
We talked about some of the big horses, but two others I just want to... Ingles Drever, you were part of course, terrific stare.
Yeah.
And Nakarat played a leading role at your wedding.
Yeah, English Drever, what a horse. Yeah, winning that World Hurl one day, that was... I've never felt so pressure, I don't think, on any ride than I felt that day, because I felt like things weren't going great in the job, and it was grand. It was relief more than probably enjoyment. And Nakarat was, beautiful grey white horse who obviously came to my wedding, and we had a great day. Race. He won 3 Racing Post Chase. I was lucky enough to win 1 on him, and then I won the Betfair Bowl on him. He was a great horse.
Paddy, recently on Sky, we've had The Fool,
Yeah.
put together by Nathan Horrocks. Clearly, mental health is a massive issue as people become more aware of it and talk more. You're someone who's clearly experienced some of that. Social media, if you ride a bad race, you know you're going to get mullered. I don't know whether it's you or the missus sees that kind of stuff. It will be your kids in years to come that will see that kind of stuff. How much does that worry you for your colleagues and yourself? Massively.
I think social media is the biggest disease travelling around the world right now. I really do. It fries me, honestly. It fries me. Like all these stuff you got. Snapchat. I'm not on Snapchat. You got Instagram. Not on Instagram. I was in the weigh room the other day and someone said, "Look at this, Paddy." I went, "What's that even? TikTok?" I'm going, "What's TikTok?" I just don't get it. And then, like, I've experienced the abuse on Twitter, so I had to leave it. And since I left...
You say you had to leave it just because you didn't want to read it? Or
I couldn't handle it. And I got in the habit of scrolling, and I was getting wrapped up in everyone's life. What's Matt Chapman doing? No. But,
very bored there.
but what's everyone doing? I was going out riding with clouds all over my head. I wasn't focused on Paddy Brennan. I got rid of Twitter. I got someone, the doc who works for Fergal, and my new sponsors, they run my Twitter. If I want to search Matt Chapman, I've got to search now to find you to see what you've tweeted. But honestly, Matt, social media is the biggest disease travelling the world right now, and I do not want my kids to grow up to that.
It does give you the chance to enjoy a good moment, though. For instance, you rode a winner not so long ago at Sutherland. It was trading, I think, at 999 to 1.
Then comes Manella Tara, who tries to respond in third, followed by Mac Finn. Manella Tara is rallying in second place. Can You Call is now all out. Here comes Manella Tara thundering home down the centre, and Paddy Brennan has got Manella Tara home.
Social media loved that.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have felt like a god if you'd looked at it that day.
I know, but you can't be waiting for what the social media love, because there's so much bad before that. There's so much bad in between. It's not. If you're waiting for the good, you got to be ready for the bad. So I just don't want to know.
Just on that, when you got that horse home, when you get a horse home that basically shouldn't be winning, is that the best feeling?
Yeah, that's massive. But obviously, you shouldn't be getting excited. I get really excited sometimes when I just possibly win a maiden hurdle. That's just the person I am. I can't. People say, "Oh, what are you doing?" I say, "Sorry." It's in the moment, and I don't like doing it all the time. But yeah, winning a race you shouldn't win. It's just brilliant feeling.
Now you've got this relationship with Fergal O'Brien. It's kind of become a bit of a cliche thing that Paddy sits here, says Fergal is amazing, says he has the best facilities, he could easily be champion trainer one day. But you believe that, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah, I really do. But you know, Fergal's been massive for me. As I said to you, going back to Imperial Commander days, it was hard for a few years because I was not getting to ride in Gold Cups, and suddenly, Fergal's taking me. Okay, it's coming at the end of my career, but to just get back up to where you want to be I'll be much happier and content when I decide, right, that's me done.
And when do you think that will be? I mean, you've said you're riding bumpers and things, won't you?
Well, yeah.
You'll just carry on.
It changes all the time, Matt. We've got a lot of good young jockeys here, and yeah, I'll definitely ride for a couple or 2 or 3 more years. Who knows? It's jump racing. I'm riding today. What will happen? Anything could be changing, but we'll just keep driving on till as long as we can.
Well, you know what? I think anyone who's watched this, they will love manic Paddy. They will love hard-working Paddy. They will love good lad Paddy. And if you want to throw something at me, I'm quite happy with that as well. It's like, I think people like Paddy Brennan, and I think that's a good thing you should take on board. That you're not quite as crazy as people.
No, but in life, not. There's so many people are going to like you. There's so many people that are not going to like you. It's lovely for you to come here today and interview me, and thanks very much.
Okay. Pretty quiet, isn't he?